Have you ever tried the Eclipse technique with embossing folders? In this video I show you how. Hello there and welcome to Terrific Tags with me, Michelle Short. Today I wanted to share with you how you can create a spotlight eclipse look with embossing folders. So let's get started. This is the embossing folder that comes with the Craft Your Life project kit Seasonal Blooms. This is such a beautiful embossing folder. It's got a really lovely kind of bouquet of blooms on the front and it kind of cascades more towards the bottom, and I'm using the piece of cardstock here. This is Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound cardstock that I'm going to emboss onto, and I've added it to one side so that that beautiful sunflower shows on the left hand side. Always difficult to show embossing white on camera, but it is really pretty in real life. I'm then taking the Terrific Tags dies and I'm going to die cut a tag from it. When I run this through my die cutting machine, it is going to flatten out some of that embossing. I'm going to re-emboss the tag, but I thought it'd be quite nice actually to leave the panel as it is. I am going to add the tag back into the panel to do the eclipse look, and I thought it would kind of pop out the tag a little bit more, but I'm just going to show you here. You can definitely run that back through the die cutting machine with the embossing folder if you wanted to. I'm going to add some ink onto the tag here, and I'm using the small ink blending tool. I have lots of different colours here. This is the Sunray colour from the Golden Sunset Crisp dye ink set, and I'm adding that towards the top of the tag. And then I'm going to go in with some pink, and that is the Rubelite colour from the Cherry Blossom Crisp dye ink set. And I'm going to try and blend those two colours together, but I am going to go back in with another colour in between, but I wanted the kind of three main colours to be on the tag first. And then I'm going to add some purple at the bottom. This is the Midnight Violet colour from the Shades of Purple Crisp dye ink set. And I think these colours work really nicely together. So I'm just going to blend that out, and then I'm going to go in with the Razzleberry colour, which is a slightly darker pink than I used in the middle, and that's just going to blend the lighter pink and the purple together. And then I can go in with Snapdragon, excuse me, and blend that between the pink and the yellow, and that's going to kind of give like an orange hue to that part of the tag. And I think this colour combination is really pretty, and already you can see that that's really brought out that embossing. But I am going to enhance that a little bit later. But first I'm going to work on my sentiment. This is the stamp set that comes in the kit, and also the die set as well, and I'm going to use the die set for the sentiment, and there is a thanks kind of outline and then also the shadow as well. I'm going to die cut the shadow from vellum. I thought it would be quite nice to have that translucent vellum behind the word. It's not going to distract too much, but it's just going to give a little bit of softness to the card. And then I'm going to cut the thanks from white cardstock. I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive sheet onto the back of some more white cardstock. And this is so that I'm not going to have to struggle trying to stick down the letters, basically, because they're so very thin. It's such a beautiful die. It's very, very delicate. And so I didn't really want to struggle with having to do that with adhesive. And so these adhesive sheets are perfect for this use, so that you can create your own stickers. So I'm just going to keep that in place with some low tack tape and run those both through my die cutting machine. With the vellum piece, I do like to add a piece of kind of printer paper, kind of like scrap paper behind it, so that I don't get any of the kind of indentations from the cutting place into the vellum. And then I can try and carefully remove the thanks word, and this did get stuck in the die a little bit. I do want to try and keep one of them into the kind of the backing of it, the kind of negative piece, because I want to run this through my die cutting machine again, so that I can have a separate word and stack them on top of each other just to give some dimension to the word. So I've run that through again, and this one actually completely got stuck in the dye, which is fine. I'm just going to kind of release that as best as possible without trying to distort the letters too much. Using some tweezers here just to help me out lifting that up, and then I'm going to try and push those letters back into the negative, and then I can line up the two together so that one is stacked on top of another. And this is where that double-sided adhesive works really nicely, so that I don't have to worry about that glue. So just using the tweezers there, taking my time to line up those two words, and then I can use the bone folder here just to really push that down, make sure that they're adhered together. And then to remove this from the negative, I'm just kind of moving the negative portion rather than the positive. And then once I think that I can get that out, I'm just going to grab that with the tweezers. And then I can also use the tweezers just to push out all of the inside pieces from those letters. I can then line that up on top of the shadow piece and adhere them together. So again, I'm going to take my time trying to line them up, using the tweezers just to manipulate those letters slightly. And then once I'm happy that that's lined up, I'm going to use the bone folder again just to really push that down. And then off camera, I have heat embossed an accompanying sentiment. This is from the Enchanted Iris stamp set. And I used the sentiment that says "so very much." I stamped it onto some black cardstock with embossing ink and applied pure white crisp embossing powder and cut that into a strip so that my sentiment says "thanks so very much." I've then got my tag here and the ink has dried, so I'm going to re-emboss that. So I'm just adding it into the embossing folder, and although it doesn't look like it on screen, it's not too bad trying to line it up. Once you get it in place, it kind of clicks in and it doesn't really move, but it does take a little bit of time just to line it back up. And it is obviously a bit more difficult because I've got the tag shape rather than a whole panel. But I run that through my die cutting machine again, and that's just really enhanced that embossing again. I am going to add even more enhancement to the embossing here by adding some white pigment ink on top. I did this in my last video with the different colours of pigment ink, and so for this one I'm just showing you that you can just use white on its own if you wanted to. So I'm just adding a bit of that onto a non-stick sheet and picking it up with a foam ink blending tool. I could go direct to the tag with the ink pad, but I didn't want to contaminate the white ink pad, so that's why I'm doing it in this way. And I'm just going to lightly go over the very raised area of that tag. This is going to enhance that embossing, but also give it kind of like a softness as well. It's a strange combination because the colours that I used are quite bright and vibrant. Adding the white on top does kind of soften it slightly, but also enhances that embossing. I did encounter a slight problem though when I ran it through the die cutting machine again. I did get a little bit of cracking in the bottom right hand corner. I didn't want to redo it because I thought that the tag was really pretty, but I did want to mention it because if you happen to have that same problem, if your tag or whatever you're re-embossing is a little bit wet, you won't get that cracking. So I did just want to mention that. Next, I've got my panel here that I cut the tag from, and I'm going to adhere that onto an A2 sized white card base with some glue tape. I'm adding quite a bit here because this panel is embossed. Although it got flattened a little bit, it's still quite embossed, so I'm just going to use a lot of that tape on the back and then adhere that onto the card. And then when I add my tag back in, that's going to complete the eclipse look. But I do just want to pop it up. You could absolutely do this with foam tape, but I wanted to have a solid layer behind the tag. So I've cut that 4 times from more white cardstock, and I'm going to layer them up. I initially thought that I would add each one inside of the panel, and then I decided that actually I think it would be easier for me to adhere them all together and then stick them in. At this point it's 3 high, and I thought actually I would quite like it to be a little bit more dimensional, so I added another one on top. So the finished would be 5 high with the tag that we embossed. So I'm just sticking in that 4 high tag layer here, and just again using the bone folder to really push that down. And then I've added some twine through the top of the tag. I'm one of those people that thinks that tags are a little bit naked without something on the top, so I did add that twine in, but you wouldn't really have to. I think it would look quite nice without. And I also think this would look really nice with loads of different shapes. You could do circles, diamonds, anything you wanted to. But obviously I love tags, so I'm going to do tags today. And as you can see, now that I've added that tag on top, it creates the eclipse look. So all of the embossing lines back up with each other, which I think is just a really pretty look. I've done it a lot with ink blending and with stamps and things like that, but I've never done it with embossing folders, and I really love the look. So I've just added some small dabs of glue onto the back of the thanks word here, and I'm just sticking that in place. I apologise for my head getting in the way, but I wanted to make sure that it was straight. And then I'm just going to add an acrylic block on top just to stick that down while the glue dries, and then I can add some instant dimension foam tape onto the back of the sentiment piece. So I'm just going to cut that down to add onto the back. And then I just need a little bit extra, so I'm just going to cut a little bit more and add that to the side. And then I can use the tweezers just to help me remove the backing off of that foam tape. And then I can stick that down onto the tag. And again, I do apologise for my head getting in the way here. And that is the card finished for today. You could definitely do this as a standalone tag, but I really wanted to do that eclipse look. It's kind of half eclipse, half spotlight, but I really love the look. And like I said, this is the first time for me doing it with the embossing folders, and I just think it's so pretty how all of that embossing lines up. But you've got kind of like the bright tag in the middle. Links to the products that I used will be in the description bar here on YouTube, and also over on the Altenew blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.